Hello, everyone. Welcome to lesson 21 out of the 80. Please make sure that you have your next level radio textbook with you, as we're going to be going through an example at the end of the lesson. All right, so today we're going to be chatting about show preparation and the importance of it and how it is done. If we take a look at your roadmap, it mentions that show preparation can be a daunting task that takes hours of meticulous planning and dedication to obtain the best content output. Planning is key to more quality entertainment, spontaneity, chemistry, creativity, and consistency. Successful broadcasters are ferocious planners that are simultaneously able to be spontaneous with confidence. In this two-part lecture, students must learn to embody the life of a host or a producer as a planner, using every opportunity to be disciplined in their planning approach. The learning outcomes of this lesson: use the following outcomes as a personal checklist to assess your readiness for future assessments. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to plan all segments of the show and conduct weekly planning meetings. That's your roadmap. Let's get into today's lesson. Show preparation. Successful broadcasters are ferocious planners that are simultaneously able to be spontaneous and confident. Lane proposes the following guidelines that can be followed during the preparation phase. You need to plan for all segments beforehand. You need to hold weekly planning and brainstorming meetings. Plan to insert the character and personalities into everything that you prepare, and build links with a P2 listener in mind. Remember, your P1 listener is one that will listen irrespective of what happens. They'll send you a voice note, whether they understand the throughout or not. But your P2 listener, right, is one you're trying to convince, one that is constantly moving from one radio station to another. So this is the listener that you need to convert into a PR1 listener, P1 listener rather. Right? So what you need to ensure is that you need to build good links so that your P2 listener becomes a P1 listener. All right, let's get into planning for all segments beforehand. In our previous lesson, we spoke about how important it is to have a solid plan for the show, taking into account the hour, the content type of that hour, and the format of the link. It's now time to fill that link with actual content. We'll use the planning sheet to help us with this process. The planning sheet starts with a reminder of the execution rule of 4. Planning out these 4 rules is the cornerstone of any great piece of content. Hook, payoff, point of view, what else? From the answers of these questions, we are able to create the link planning sheet, which will look like this. This you can find in your next level radio textbook. The story summary. What is the story all about? Emotivity. You need to write down the exact emotion you feel about the topic. Then write the emotions you wish to evoke by telling the story. The promise, right? What you need to entice your listener with. Script the exact promise or tease. The hook. Write what you say in the first 10 seconds to capture the attention for the segment. Remember, we spoke about the fact that listeners have a short attention span, so you need to hook them literally in the first 15 seconds. If you can, first 5, and you've got a winner. Point of view. A personal story of your own that relates to this topic. A story that you heard about the topic. What thoughts are in your head? What opinions did you have? The payoff, the punchline. What is the resolution? How will the link end? What else? What else can we do to make it bigger and add more layers? What will make it go viral, right? This is the kind of content that we're looking for. All right. You can take a look at the type of links as well in your textbooks. It is written there. It is very important to go through this, guys. The character stories and the storyline, serialized content. Is it out of studio content? For instance, voice pops. Is it a listener game? Is it a guest interview? Is it a phone topic? And the list goes on. So these are some of the things that you need to consider. Every link, regardless of its nature, can and should be planned, documented, and executed using the previous planning sheet. It is important to follow this so that you don't go off on a tangent of your own when you're on air. Because when you do, you lose out on time and you could be late for other important elements of your clock. Or even worse, you could lose your listener and they have no idea what you're talking about. Let's chat about holding weekly planning and brainstorming meetings. In this weekly meeting, each producer, presenter, or anyone involved in the content of the show should come prepared with ideas for the following week's content. You need to plan ahead. These ideas should come from using the planning sheet previously shown. RadioWay.com introduces their prep services as a way to supercharge your radio station or show. Bits and Pieces is a prep service from the UK. They describe their offering as full of topical gags, daily competitions, talkers, phoners, and Facebook prompts to get your show interaction. Let's look at the examples given on page 132 and 136. So please make sure you grab your next level radio textbook and we're going to turn over to page 132. Example 4C. Dr. Dave's Ultimate Prep Sheet is a subscription service that delivers stories and ideas to your inbox. The service is called the Daily Chat. Seeing the following example email, which is filled with ideas to get your planning going. So a lot of primetime radio shows use Dr. Dave. It always gives you all the intel on what's happening around the world and some content pieces to inspire you as a presenter as well as your producers. Daily Chats, Thursday, 25th October 2019. This is what Dr. Dave looked like. Making your Hollywood pumpkin last longer. Obviously, a very topical story for Halloween in the US. We don't necessarily celebrate it. Pearly white teeth is not enough. Interesting and weird fashion story. Children and credit cards. Parental and personal finance advice. Let's maybe take a look at making your Halloween pumpkin last longer. What is the bottom line? Tips to help you prevent your pumpkin from rotting. A short topical article for Halloween in October that listeners might find interesting and helpful. People spend a lot of time and money creating their Halloween pumpkins. This includes finding the right specimen, cleaning it, and cutting your own design into it. After going through all of this trouble, they obviously want the vegetables to last long and not to rot within a few days. The article provides the following tips. Buy from a local shop. Pumpkins that come from afar are more likely to be damaged. Local ones come from farms close by and will be fresher and hence will last longer. Clean out the inside properly. Do not leave any seeds or fibers inside the vegetable. They are prone to mold and will soon start rotting. Use chemicals. Give the pumpkin a bleach treatment after you've cleaned it. Dilute a liter of water with a tablespoon of bleach and spray it on the inside of the pumpkin. It will prevent mold from growing. Do not leave your pumpkin out all night. Heat and cold will make it rot sooner. It could also become infested with insects. Burning a candle inside it for a long time will make it dry out sooner. Spray it with some water and bleach to make it last longer. Keep the pumpkin as is. It might defy the point of having one, but not cutting the pumpkin at all will make it last much longer. What are the thought starters for this topic? How early do you carve your pumpkins before Halloween? Have you ever created a jack-o'-lantern that did not even make it until Halloween? Do you go for unique jack-o'-lantern designs or classic ones? All right. So from that, we've had some thoughts on this topic. You can also read Pearly White Teeth is Not Enough, as well as Children and Credit Cards. You can take a look at that in your own time, but I think it's important to take a look at that example as it gives you some guidelines on some of the things that you need to consider when you're coming up with content. When we look furthermore at example 4D, and we look at the dates and what content was viral on the day or was relevant for the day, we see that on Monday, the 1st of July, 2019, was 30 days until the Rugby World Cup. Some other interesting facts was World Tuberculosis Awareness Day. Some events that took place, Jacob Zuma to appear at state capture hearing, and Gauteng running out of water. It also looked at some very important birthdays. Abraham Smith, renowned South African architect of Nelson Mandela Stadium. The birthday quiz, a question about someone who's celebrating their birthday today. South Africans' one-liners, weddings need research shows so-called blessers are less likely to pay child support. So the list goes on and on in terms of the content that could be important for you on that day, and you could delve deep into it when it comes to content that you can receive on Dr. Dave. All right, so please make sure you go through your next level radio textbook. The RIP formula. Yeah, what an acronym. The RIP formula from Stone and Ginger is a method of making sure that the content that's being produced from sources other than one's own thoughts shares the following characteristics. R, researched. I, internalized. P, performed. Other helpful tips and guides that Stone recommends include taking the now researched and internalized content and then asking yourself certain questions regarding the following. The type of music or sound effects that you're going to need, the number of people who should be involved in the segment. If you need someone to ask a question or to get things going, somebody that you need to prepare beforehand. If you need someone to call at the end, a kicker to get people to call in. If the material lends itself to an audience quiz, a mock news bulletin, or a fake advert of a humoristic sketch. Then, once the content is ready to be performed, Stone recommends rehearsing and then re-editing the content if need be. Further techniques. Johnson provides further tips for content creation. Is there a contrast in the story? Two different sides to the coin. Is there a conflict or a dilemma that needs to be resolved? Are we seeking the extreme? Do we perhaps have a list that we want to conduct? Can we make it a game? Should we add a guest? Discuss personal life and opinions? Create unique, original content that only you can perform. Let's take a look at activity 4A. Question 2. You can find activity 4A on page 145. The second question that we're looking at is using the execution rule of 4, choose a story and create a link. By using the link planning sheet, show how you have filled in all the parts of the link planning sheet. All right, we discussed this a little bit earlier on in our class where we spoke about a story summary, the emotivity, the promise, the point of view, the payoff or the punchline, and what else that could be important. So do remember that you can find these questions or answers to these questions at the back of your textbook. And if you turn to page 594, you will find answers to this question. Remember, your answers may be different based on the type of story that you are chatting about. In this particular instance, the story summary is an initiative by Big Company to build an after-school place of safety for children in gang-invested areas all over South Africa. What's the emotivity, right? You need to write down the exact emotions that you feel about the topic, then write the emotion you wish to evoke by telling the story. So you felt excitement about this amazing initiative that's taking place. So what emotion are you trying to evoke? You're trying to evoke some inspiration. What is the promise? What is the tease? Next up, we'll be talking to Dawson's Food CEO, Feziwe Sibeng, about an amazing new initiative that will make such a huge difference to kids caught up in gang warfare. That's how you throw forward to this content piece. That's how you keep people caught in this initiative. What is the hook? Write what you will say in the first 10 seconds to capture the attention for the segment. The vibrant community in East London was rocked by the death of yet another local pupil, Sean Blakey's. But one company stepped up to the plate to bolster community safety. That is the hook. What caught my eye when I was reading it is that the community was rocked by yet another death of a local pupil. I'm already hooked to this and I want to find out more and how this initiative can make things better for this community. Let's look at the different points of view. You can add a personal story of your own that relates to this topic. Here's an example. While I was training back in the day to become a producer, I met Jeremy. He came from Mannenberg in Cape Town. And as I grew to know him, I realized I didn't know half of what was going on right on my doorstep. Jamie and I became friends, and he told me how, when he was in grade 8, he was hit by a stray bullet while walking home from school. He had to undergo emergency surgery and had to stay in hospital for 2 months. This could be a story that you as a presenter have encountered growing up as a result of gang violence. Or it could be a story that you heard about this topic. A teacher and a community leader from Mannenberg recently spoke at a rally for more police action. Our roving reporter, Charlene, was there and later told me of the heartbreaking story she heard that day of children who were unable to go to school for days on end because it was too dangerous to walk to school. What thoughts are in your head? What opinions do you have? I always feel shocked when I hear these stories. My first response is always, but why doesn't the police do something about this? The reality is that unfortunately, the police is completely underfunded and its resources are too stretched. However, more and more private companies from civil society are realizing that they have a role to play. What is the payoff? What is the punchline? What is the resolution? And how will the link end? So we are lucky to have Feziwe on the line who's willing to make some time for us. Stay tuned to hear her speak about the groundbreaking initiative that she has in mind. How else can we unpack the story? What else is there? What else can we do to make it bigger and add more layers? What will make it go viral, shareable, and into a did you hear that moment? Because that is what we are looking for. Hear the answers. Get people to call in from the areas touched by violence in this respect to tell stories about police corruption and colluding with gangs. Someone shared a sound clip of a corrupt police official promising to help a gangster escape from custody. Someone else sent in a video clip which was placed on the station's website. There's more extra stuff that you can do to make this topic go viral and for people to say, did you hear that? Because that is what we want. Once the show has wrapped, once the show is over, we want people to still speak about what they heard on radio. If you use this guide on how to create content and how to make sure that you execute it well, I swear you're definitely on the right track. It helps you manage your time. It helps you manage your content. It helps you grab your P2 listener and hopefully convert it into a P1 listener. I really hope from all the work that we've done that it is slowly starting to make sense and it's helping you come up with content and to become a better presenter and a producer. We'll discuss this more in class. If you have any questions, we have a Radio 2 WhatsApp group that you can contact me through, or you can send me an email on nonhlanhla@boston.co.za or nkumalo08@gmail.com. Otherwise, see you next time.